Hello, and help me welcome Don Davidson. Don, welcome for People's View.
Thank you, Carl.
As ex-mayor, are you now coming in as one to join the Fire Commission?
Yes, I've had a few people kind of shake their heads saying, what are you doing this? You were mayor 20 years ago. Well, I was mayor until the turn of the century, until 2000, January 2000. And then about a year and a half later, I served on the Fire Commission. There was a vacancy that came up, and I was appointed to fill the seat. Something that you did back in the days, the board's always appointed to fill a vacancy. And then somewhere along the line in subsequent years, they changed it to have a special election. And on this year's ballot, you'll see they're trying to go back to the other way. But anyway, I was appointed to fill a seat, and I served, I'm thinking 11 months, 12 or 13 months, right in that area of a year, and enjoyed it. Enjoyed it a lot. But I had just come off being mayor, so I kind of knew all the people. We appointed, while I was on, a new fire chief at the time. He had been the assistant. And this summer, I kind of said, geez, I'd like to do something like that again. It never leaves your blood,
No,
it doesn't. You know, and I've been in the city in either appointed or elected positions since 1966.
Wow.
I had to do some figuring myself. My first job with the city was appointed. I was appointed to the Airport Authority in 1965. And I filled the seat that my father had. My father was the first chairman of the Airport Authority, and he wanted to step down after 5 years. And I was in my young 20s then, and we went to the Board of Aldermen, and in those days, that's how you interviewed. You went to the Board of Aldermen and interviewed, and so I got appointed to fill this seat. And then the next year, I said, I think I want to try an election. So I ran for Ward 1 selectman, and I won. Now, a selectman, as you know, in a city does not have the power, the work, or everything that a town, a selectman in a town is very important.
Yeah.
We just do ward work, but that was the beginning. And then I subsequently ran for alderman, and I was living in Ward 8. And then I ran for state rep from Ward 8, and then I ran alderman at large, and I spent 14 years as an alderman. And then, of course, I ran for mayor in the late 90s, and then served, as I said, the 1-year appointed position on the Fire Commission. And it's not a heavy lift job. I mean, it's certainly not being mayor or anything like that.
You're familiar with all the administrative duties, and you know what works and doesn't work just from those years of experience.
Yes, just from that exposure I had back then.
Right.
And I did some research, because I've been away from it a while, but I did some research on our fire department. And this year's budget, the 2019 budget, it's about $23 million for the fire service. And our fire department here in Nashua has 6 stations. For our viewers who really may be new to the city or don't know, we have Amherst Street, we have Airport, we have East Hollis Street, which used to be Alls. It was the old engine. It was the old Arlington Street station. Then you have Lake Street, and then you have Conant Road, for those who live out on the west side, and you have Spitbrook Road. Those 6 stations. We have 12 pieces of equipment. And when you think about it, that's not a lot for a city like us, but it's enough. Manchester has quite a few more than. We have 6 engines. We have 3 ladders, which includes the tower. One of the ladders is that big tower that can reach, tall buildings. And then we have 3 spares. These are engines that have been replaced, but are in really good shape, and they keep them as emergency spares. If one of our regular engines breaks down, they pull that out. And they're able to put them around the city. All of them are put around so that wherever a fire breaks, the equipment that's in that area is enough to handle it until others come in to assist.
Well, I saw the possibility of building a new station too because of the school situation.
Right. That is something I hope if I'm elected I can be involved in, because all my years of being in government I helped build high schools and police stations and parking garages and all that. So that'd be fun to be involved with a fire station. And yes, the demographics of the city have been moving around, and it's such now that there would be a good plus to the city if we probably had a station in one of those kind of vacant areas of a station. When I was mayor, I tried to get 2 one-bay stations built. Didn't have enough horsepower to do it at the time. One of them was going to be in the southwest corner down by as you go down towards Hollis Depot, going down Main Dunstable Road. And the other one was going to be right up on the Merrimack line. Now, I don't know what they're planning now. I mean, I hope to get in. And the Merrimack line one was, I was working as mayor to get the town of Merrimack to
I see.
use that.
That's interesting.
So it
That's a
cut
good
down the
approach.
cost.
Sure.
We had to have the unions buy in because you got different. But I thought it was a very practical approach to the need. It was going to be right up in the very corner of Amherst Street, just as you enter, right by Pennachuck Square.
Right.
And then it would serve both those areas. And of course, again, I don't know what they've been planning. I hope they've been planning something like that, because that part of Merrimack has really grown.
That's
I mean,
right.
they have malls up there now and everything. So that's kind of that's the thing that kind of got me enthused about trying to get on board.
So you think you could work with Merrimack like that?
We were able to do it 20 years ago.
Okay.
I wouldn't think it would be any different today, especially when it's a win-win from both sides. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm only a candidate.
But this is telling the audience what you might do.
Yeah.
Where you have background and something that might influence them and how they want to vote. Somebody who's going to be ready for the situation that they picture coming up.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get on to do whatever I can to help the fire department and the city. As I said, I think earlier, it's in your blood when you've been doing it as long as I have. It never really goes away. As you get older, you get to realize you can't do everything you want to do. But this is something that would not be a problem.
Well, your experience is very worthwhile in a situation like that. I see that our budgets are always growing.
Oh,
That's
yes.
always a big problem. Taxes have gone up, assessments have gone up, and everything like that. And you've worked with some of those things.
Oh, yes.
So I would think that this helps you help us.
Well, again, with the budget experience I've had on the big level,
Right.
I think I could help the fire department in the same way. And of course, one thing in a community like us, actually, even if it's a small community, the big thing, first of all, the bulk of the budget is payroll.
Right.
No matter what budget it is, it's payroll, your employees. But the big thing on top of that is the retirement. Retirement is a big chunk of any budget.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, people spend 20, 25, 30 years working for that retirement, so you got to make sure it's robust.
Financially.
Right. But you can't have a department just extract itself from the city. That budget's got to be one giant budget.
Right.
And my thought is whatever I can do to make our budget more efficient but give the same benefits, I'd like to do.
Well, is there any other element of that? I mean, the equipment isn't too cheap either.
Oh, God, no. No, equipment is very expensive. I don't know what it is today, but when I was mayor, we did get a new truck during the time I was mayor, and it took 3 budgets to buy
for
it.
it,
What we did is we put a chunk in 3 times, 3 different budget years, so that the year we had to pay the bill, it wasn't hitting that budget that year. And I'm sure that's the way they still do it. I am not totally researched on whether we need a new truck in the near future or not, but I am sure that
Well, if they build a station, you're going to need a new
well,
truck.
but we have 3 spares,
Oh,
remember,
I
which is
see.
very
Okay,
nice. I mean, it wasn't too far back, 3 decades ago, 30 years plus. We didn't have any spares.
How long does it take to between the time you decide you want one and you get it?
Well, today's different. I keep saying today's different because in fact it is. I mean, we're 2020 now, and I was involved in late 90s, and then prior to that, way back, the times change, and so the building ability changes. My guesstimate, it would take, because I know back when I was mayor, we were looking at a minimum of 2 years per station, but they were going to be cookie cutter stations, where Joni did one engineering design work and all that, and they were going to be the same. The bays might be reversed, but they were going to be the same. And that was about 2 years back then. That's from when you say go with the plans and to getting the truck to back in the
Well, that gives you
station.
time too to bring up your budget to.
Oh,
pay for
yes,
that.
yes. But I mean, something like that, you got to plan a few
Oh, yeah.
years ahead. You can't just decide today, let's build a station next year, because you got to get the plans, you got to get so much approval from various entities, the National Fire. They all play a part in the approval for something like a fire station.
And hiring new people, does that take training a while?
Well, hiring new people is probably the easier of all of it, because when you come on board as a fireman or a policeman or any of those professional jobs, you come on board as a novice. Unless you transfer from another station, of course, another city.
Yeah.
You come on board as a novice, and there is a training process for the new hires that is quite extensive. It takes them a couple years before they get to the bottom position where you can rely on them to do their job. I mean, it's a good training process, as it should be, But when you come right down to it, if we find, say we're going to build a station, it was going to be ready 2 years from now. That's awful fast, but let's say it was. They could start looking at hiring in this upcoming year to get the staff up. And now when you hire, up goes the payroll budget. And because the firemen have very unique work schedules, and I may be wrong in this, and I'll say to our viewers right away, I may be off a little, but the concept is 24 on, I think it's 48 off, and then 48 on and 24 off. In other words, it's staggered. So as a fireman, a lot of people used to say, gosh, these people are firemen and they all have their own businesses or other jobs. Well, they have that ability because they get blocks of time off. But when they're on, it's 24/7 while they're on. So there's a trade-off there. And that's why you see the firemen always cooking their meals. They become great cooks as a fireman. And when you're the
That's what I've
newbie
heard.
coming in, they make you do the cooking. But you'll see them in a supermarket walking around getting all the groceries because they cook right in the station because they have to sleep there and live there and everything. So it's a very a different job, it's a very interesting job, and it's a very professional job and a very rewarding job. These guys, as first responders, they don't want to do anything else. They're into that like I was into flying, as a pilot my whole life, and there was nothing that would pull me away from that enjoyment and desire and everything. Well, they're the same in the fire operation.
Well, how are you promoting yourself other than this interview?
Well, I got a few signs, not like if I was running for a big office, but I got a few signs, and I'm trying to place them strategically around the city where you get good view. When I'm running for other offices, I'd stick them anywhere.
Yeah.
No matter who wanted, if they were on a dead end, I'd say, will you take a sign? Well, on the practical side of it, that doesn't do anything, but makes you feel good that, people are willing to put your signs out. But on something like this where, I want to get about 50 locations.
Yeah.
I've got about half of them out now, and I'll
that's good.
finish them. Nothing overwhelming, but I just want to get it so people see the name, and that's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
You know.
Well, we've run out of time.
Oh, that's very good.
Don, thank you very much, and good luck on your election. And if you have any time when you get elected, come back and tell us how it's working.
I would be glad to.
Okay, thank you
And
very
remember
much.
to vote on November 5th.
November 5th.
Yes.
Thank you very much.